Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Easter weekend, so happy Easter if that's your thing. Lots of things to talk about this week, but I'll try and keep it quick because we're all busy. It's the start of a new week. And for lots of us, well, certainly those in the UK, it's a shorter week. And last week was a shorter week as well because of the public holidays. And that tends to mean a slightly busier week, right? So first thing to talk about. This is interesting. So Microsoft Teams applications and apps that third-party people build, third-party developers, indie developers, companies. We've known for a while because it's been out for a while. The ability to have different licenses and different licensing SKUs built in as part of the kind of Microsoft 365 apps package managed by Microsoft, the money taken by Microsoft, and then sort of basically means the developers don't have to worry about kind of setting up payment systems and all that sort of stuff. You could just use the Microsoft kind of tech that's there for your licensing, but actually sort of allocating different licenses to users and allowing users to kind of do the upgrade and all that sort of stuff has always been something the developers have had to do. Now, there's a update to this now because now it's a little bit easier because ISVs can actually use some more built-in stuff to manage that process or allow users to manage that process of doing kind of license management. So it builds on the stuff that was there before, basically. So I'm going to try to share my screen, which may or may not work. We'll see how it goes. I normally kind of test this before I start recording, but we'll see. Yeah, I wondered if that might happen. So let me quickly fix that because that is not a great experience, is it? So I know you can't see anything and that is fine, but we're going to fix that right about now. There we go. Much better. Okay, so this is the blog post I wanted to show you. So new features to allow customers to manage and assign purchased licenses in Microsoft Teams. So what's interesting to look at here is this screenshot. So you can kind of see this is you managing your apps as a user. I know it's a little bit small, but yeah, you can see your apps as a user. And here you can assign licenses. This is new functionality, really, that you can do. Now you have to opt into this. So there's a process of opting in as part of the creating the offer. It's a one-time thing. So once you've done it, you can't go back and do it. I'm not really sure if this means that you now need to relist. Like if you want to take advantage of this for existing applications, I don't know if you now need to relist in the store. You might need to. So that might be a bit of a problem, but certainly for new applications moving forwards, you won't need to. I think probably you can probably apply this after the fact. I would have kind of thought so. You do need to choose one of these offers. So either managing customer licenses yourself or having Microsoft do it. You need to choose one or the other. You can't do both. And then there's instructions here on how to do this. The key thing that's kind of will make it useful for developers is that there's a new API call you can make against a user to figure out what license that user has, and by doing that, that's really that's the lowest possible touch for developers. They don't have to worry about the actual process of assigning those licenses, adding them and removing them and working on all that sort of stuff. They can just call an API endpoint and figure out what license has this user got so that I can tailor the experience. So really, this will allow developers to concentrate on the logic of, the business logic of their application rather than spending loads of cycles figuring out things like license management, which is nice. It's a good idea because this is a problem everybody is going to have. It's nice to see Microsoft solve it and abstract it so that we can all kind of concentrate on the stuff our app is supposed to be doing rather than all this kind of stuff around the outside, which is important and necessary, but we don't really want to have to spend the time building it. So it's kind of cool to see. All right, let's cut to something else. A long time ago, you'll remember something called Skype for Business. Don't shout at me. I know lots of people still use it. But Skype for Business usage reporting is something that you can do in Microsoft Graph. So there's a reports endpoint in Microsoft Graph. It is useful for snapshotting usage across the Microsoft 365 stack. So Teams is included in there. Yammer is included in there. SharePoint, other bits and pieces I can't remember. Skype for Business is also in there, and there's a set of Skype for Business reports, and it covers things like activity detail, number of users, what those users are, how many interactions they're doing every day, what devices they're doing them on, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, the long and the short of it is those reports are being deprecated. So they are being deprecated. That means they're going to go away soon. It means you shouldn't start using them for new projects, and if you are using them, you should plan to move off them. So big news if you use the Skype for Business reporting endpoints, because it sounds like they're going away. Now, I don't know exactly when they're going away. This blog post, which is the announcement blog post, announces today, so that's April 3rd, the deprecation of all Skype for Business usage and active users reports in Graph 1.0 and beta endpoints in worldwide and GCC cloud deployments. It goes on to say they will be decommissioned starting on April the 30th, 2023. Now, as I understand it, the announcement of a deprecation starts a 2-year-long life cycle of kind of decommissioning. So once something in the Microsoft Graph gets deprecated, it sticks around for another 2 years before being turned off. Now, that is my understanding of general Microsoft Graph functionality. That's not what this blog post says. What this blog post says is they will be decommissioned starting on April the 30th. And once the deprecation is complete, the service will be retired. It doesn't actually specify exactly when that is going to be. I've asked for some clarification around this because obviously knowing whether it's going to stop working in 2 years' time or at some much accelerated time soon, which is kind of what this says, is very important if you're using this today. So that is, that's going to be interesting. I'm going to try and find out, and when I do find out, I will let you know. But yeah, this is the blog post. You can go and find the detail. It's got a link as well to every single usage report that is in this deprecation list, so you can cross-check against your code and figure out if you are impacted by this. But yes, my understanding is that this is 2 years away from being actually turned off, but I'm going to try and find out, and you should too, because if it's going to be a lot sooner than that, it's obviously going to be a lot more impactful if you're using it. All right. That's something going away. Let's talk about something that's here, that's new. Let's talk about email, which is not something that is new, but it's new in Azure Communication Services. So about a year ago, at the last build 2022, Microsoft, the Azure Communication Services team, announced that they were going to be building in email support. So the ability to send email and send and receive email, and really at scale with kind of rich features, sort of that you'd expect from like a decent email platform. Things like delivery analytics, nice easy code integration, the ability to bring your own domain, all that sort of stuff. Really, it's going head to head with the established email senders, people like Twilio that already do SMS and voice over IP and email. They're well known for all of those things. Azure Communication Services is rounding out its capability stack by including email. So like I say, this was announced at Build last year. It has just gone GA. So it's since being announced, it was obviously built, went through a public preview process, or private preview, I guess, public preview process into beta. It's now announced as GA. So there's a GA announcement blog post, which I'll put a link to. And that sort of happened this week. So it's a set of APIs developers can use to send emails quickly and securely. Supports, all the things it's a basic email sending platform. There's not an awful lot you can say about it, if I'm honest. The biggest, I'd say the biggest pro point for using Azure Communication Services to send your email is that it's built on Azure. So if you are building out a solution as a third party that you're going to have to try and sell to IT teams and get through, their compliance process, their security guidelines, knowing it's all built on Azure is a massive tick in the box, that it's not another third-party system you have to go and figure out all the legals for, and all the compliance hurdles for. It's all living on Azure. It's that kind of trusted, secured cloud that organizations know, and really you'll get kind of a free pass for most Azure services, if I'm honest. So that's a massive win for developers. Other than that, I mean, email is email, right? There's only so many ways of sending email. So I think it's good to have this in the toolbox for ACS. But like I say, the biggest advantage of this is that it's built on the Microsoft stack, and that goes a long way. When you're kind of trying to get your solution certified or approved by local IT teams. All right, one more thing to tell you about, and it concerns the co-piloting of everything. Copilot is like the new Viva. Everything is co-piloted now, and you might have missed this. I missed this until just like a little earlier when I was going through the notes for what I was going to talk about today. And Copilot is coming to OneNote, which I thought was kind of interesting. So Interesting for a couple of reasons. So first of all, there's the announcement itself. So you'll be able to use Copilot in OneNote. This is very similar to what Notion are doing at the moment. So Notion, a competing tool, but they have Notion AI, which allows you to do things like you can ask it questions and it will answer based on the information it already has in your notes. It will use ChatGPT, obviously. Build out plans and to-do lists, and you can see how you might use something like that to, help me build a checklist of things because I'm organizing some event or something like that. That kind of capability is coming to OneNote. And so you can see a little animation here of, making a to-do list based on, some high school graduation that you can choose to sort of keep or not keep. So there's that. That's kind of interesting. And will it be useful? Will we use it? Don't know. Lots of questions there. This is not an announcement blog post. This is more about we're going to do this thing, not we have done this thing. So there's no dates in here. There's no timeline for when this might come. It is very much just yes, of course, we're adding Copilot to things. One of those things is going to be OneNote. I did think it was a little interesting because we have OneNote now with Copilot. We also have Loop and Loop components in the Loop app. I would be stunned if Copilot didn't come to Loop. The fact that hasn't been announced yet doesn't mean it isn't happening. I just imagine it's probably a build announcement because let's take two, things that Microsoft want to really push and join them together. So you've got Loop and Copilot. Why not have Loop Copilot? You can kind of see how that would be useful and interesting. But I thought it was interesting that OneNote are coming out and announcing this kind of first. That might just mean that, yes, of course, it's coming to OneNote as well, because why wouldn't you? But it's not a big enough news to make a build announcement, so let's drop it out now. Or it's always kind of interesting because now we've got OneNote and Loop together, and I don't really understand what the Loop app is against OneNote. It feels like we've got two applications doing very similar things, and maybe that will kind of come out over time, but we'll have to see. Yeah, like it's surprising in a way that the Loop app, the Loop components that we see in Microsoft Teams and the rest of it, that completely makes sense. I am surprised we haven't seen Loop components come to OneNote. That would seem to be like a no-brainer, but it kind of makes sense in the context of having a Loop app, which is separate. But then I have lots of questions around the functionality of OneNote, which is quite rich because it has built up over time, but has its own challenges around synchronization. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, I'm just telling you what's happening. Copilot has come to OneNote. And I would say watch this space for Copilot and Loop, but I don't have any information about that. All right, that's everything I want to tell you about this week. I hope you have a good week. It's getting busy again. The conference season is definitely here. I did a really cool podcast with the Office 365 or O365A Team Canada podcast, which was good. I don't know when that'll be out, but I recorded it last week, so kind of look out for that on their podcast and subscribe to them as well, because they do a great roundup of everything that's happening in the team space, and they're much more knowledgeable than I am around the IT pro side of things. So I kind of listen to them to figure out what's going on. But yeah, have a good week, whatever it is you're doing, and I will talk to you again next time.